welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the start of your week. My name is Tom Morgan, Microsoft MVP. Tend to focus on Microsoft Teams development stuff, and there's plenty of interesting things to talk about this week. A couple of big announcements to get through, and then some exciting stuff coming out next week that I am very much looking forward to. All right, so I think we're ready to make a start. I have a freshly brewed cup of coffee right here because it is a Monday morning. And it's been a lovely weekend. Spring is here. The sun is out. Had a barbecue yesterday, so that's exciting. So I much prefer the hotter temperatures to the colder temperatures, but that's just me. All right, let's get into it and talk about the first thing. And this is kind of quite an important one, actually. So I did want to make sure everybody understood. We've talked on and off about Microsoft Graph and billing in Microsoft Graph. And so what I mean by that is the fact that some parts of Microsoft Graph may become chargeable and you may get charged to use them in some capacity. And we've been talking about this for a few years. And I think last year we got through quite a lot of detail in terms of exactly which API endpoints were going to get charged and how that charging was going to work. And it's a consumption model basis, and it includes things like seeded capacity, model A, model B, lots of new terms to learn. And I've done blog posts in the past, you can go and check those out, all about that. But up until now, it's not really been something that's been at the forefront of everyone's mind because Microsoft laid down these instructions but didn't actually start enforcing them. Now, that is going to start changing. That enforcing has already started happening for new applications and is going to start happening for existing applications. So if you've completely ignored this up until this point because you have an application that is running just fine, thank you very much, and you've kind of got a suspicion that it's using some of those API endpoints that may be chargeable, such as the change notifications to get all chats or something like that, or to get all channel messages or get all Teams messages, all of those kind of change notification APIs. If you've got a suspicion that you're using those, but it's carried on working, so you haven't really worried about it, you do have to start doing something about it now, because on June the 30th, that's when they're going to start enforcing these rules for existing applications. And there's some setup that you need to do before then to avoid disruption. If you don't do anything, and you've got an existing application that uses these API endpoints, if you do nothing, then from July 1st, you are going to start getting rate limited, because you are going to fall back to the evaluation scenario, like evaluation mode, which is kind of the mode you go into when you haven't got anything else set up. It's got fairly low throttling limits, and it's got fairly low throughput over time. So you are going to get errors. You're going to get 401 errors. So you're not even going to get 429. You're not going to get throttling errors. You're going to get 402, which is a special HTTP requirement that doesn't get used very often. But the actual definition of 402 is payment required. So there'll be no ambiguity that you need to pony up. So there's a couple of different things you need to do. The first thing you need to do is you need to have tied your application that you're using this to an Azure subscription that is set up for Azure billing. So it can't be a free tenant. It can't be, I don't think it can be pay-as-you-go either. I think it has to have a proper billing subscription associated with it. And that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do is add the specific type of payment model that you want to use when calling the API. So this is something you put into the headers of the API calls that you make to say whether they're Model A or Model B. And then finally, if you're using Model A, then you need to make sure that the tenant you're running this on has enough or the right sort of E5 licenses and that DLP is enabled. There's a lot of blog posts to go through. So let me start by sharing, first of all, the announcement that came out this week, just reminding everybody that June 30th is coming up quite quickly, and that is the cutover point for existing applications. I should say, by the way, if you've set up a brand new application that uses these APIs from the 1st of March this year, you're already having these requirements met. So if you've got a brand new application, you may already have been through this process, in which case there's nothing further for you to do. This really, the call to action now is for legacy applications, those created before the 1st of March this year, which isn't that long ago. It's not that legacy. that were running and will stop running in July if no action is taken. So let's go through this blog post quickly. The first thing to call out and the first thing you want to check is, am I impacted? Are the calls that I'm making, the API calls that I'm making, are they impacted by this? And this is what this section here is for. Okay, so this gives you a list of the API endpoints that are subject here to those kind of changes. And so you want to check that first and make sure that you are or you aren't impacted. If you are impacted, this is the bit that tells you what you need to do around the dates and everything. And then this is the important bit down here. These are the links to how you get this stuff set up. Setting up an Azure billing subscription, setting up a payment model. This is the link to kind of the stuff you need to put in the headers of your API requests. This is a check that you can use, or some documentation, so you can go and check to make sure you've got the proper licensing and that DLP is enabled. You can, once this stuff is all set up as well, you can estimate your costs, because now that everything is being billed through Azure, then actually you can go and see all this stuff happening in Azure in the same place that you would any other Azure resource in cost analysis and all the rest of it. So that's good. I don't think you can set budget caps or anything like that. It's really just the cost analysis stuff that you'll be able to change here. So this is important news. So if you've got an application running already, if you use a partner solution that you suspect uses these change notifications, if you have a partner solution that offers things like real-time notification of messaging, real-time channel messages, actions to channels or Teams messages that are happening in real time, analysis, maybe, anything like that, you want to hunt those guys down and kind of just make sure they're on top of this and make sure they have a plan in place. The other really important thing for that kind of partner-vendor relationship that you have with your partners and vendors, be really clear you understand from them what the charging model is going to be. So somebody here gets charged consumption. So you have a solution that you bought through a vendor, through a partner, and somebody is going to start getting consumption billing minutes. Is that you or is that them? So you need to understand what that is and what that looks like. And if they haven't had that conversation with you yet, I would proactively go and start it with them, because this stuff is coming really quickly. And you don't want to get unexpected billing in the July kind of invoicing run after a month of this, if it turns out that your Azure tenant is the one being billed and you didn't know about it. So yeah, this is it's worth kind of planning for, and now's probably the right time to start thinking about it, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a partner, even whether you're a customer who uses these solutions, or you have these solutions in-house. Understher understanding this stuff. Big important one. All right, I've spent enough time talking about that. I think it kind of is important, but it's definitely worth understanding. Let's talk about something else, which is an update to the Microsoft 365 developer program. So we've had the Microsoft 365 developer program for a while. It's the ability to spin up a developer sandbox that is kind of either empty or full of Microsoft 365 data, and build solutions against it, develop and test against it. It's really, really useful. There have been some issues in the past number of months around setting up new sandboxes, administering them. I think there've been some scale issues, some security problems. I don't know what it is, but there've been some onboarding issues, and that has made it tough to get onto the developer sandbox, and in some cases tough to stay on it as well. So this blog post is kind of holding their hands up to that and saying, we recognize this has been a problem, but we think we're kind of past the worst of it now. And so, we've got a new system in place, and here's how it's going to work, and here are the rules. So this is worth reviewing. If you tried to get onto this, the developer sandbox and the developer program in the past and you've not been able to, then maybe it's worth revisiting this to see if this is now a better experience. The dev subscriptions last for 90 days. But if you're actually using it to do development things on, then it will automatically renew. Microsoft don't list out what those things are, but from everything they're saying, I think just do normal development and testing and you'll probably be fine. I've always been fine. I've done what I'd consider normal development, and it's always been absolutely fine. If it's not, and they expire your tenant for not enough activity, you can submit an appeal and tell them what it is you're doing. and I'm sure they'll have a look at it. So yes, and there's a reminder in this blog post as well that this is just meant for developers. It's not meant as a production tenant. It's not an easy way to get a free tenant. So just be careful that if they suspect that you're not doing development on it and you are doing production things on it, they will just turn it off. And so that's their right, because it is a developer sandbox. So yeah, they will monitor it for developer activity and will extend your 90-day period indefinitely, really, as long as you keep developing on it. So it's a really useful thing to have. It's always been really useful. I'm really glad they've solved kind of some of the issues they had that have stopped people being able to use it and enjoy it, because it is super useful. So that's all good. Let's talk about something completely different, and that is HIMS, which is a healthcare conference in Chicago. Happens every year, COVID notwithstanding, and Microsoft are often there. And if you know Microsoft, they're divided among product lines and product groups, but also they're split vertically. And healthcare is one of their verticals that they take a really big interest in, and there's some real IT challenges that can be solved in healthcare. And one of those is around communication. It's around, you can imagine, telehealthcare, virtual communications, collaboration, virtual appointments, and virtual care, and lots of places for innovation, and lots of places where Microsoft think they can really make a difference. And you can imagine how Microsoft Teams and Azure Communication Services both can play a part here in coming together and showcasing some really neat solutions. And I think that is what we can expect to see at HIMS23 in Chicago. I think it's happening next week, but Microsoft are going to be there, and there's a blog post they've put together explaining what they're going to be showing off at HIMS. And so I think it's going to be led with Azure Communication Services to kind of showcase what you can do in terms of virtual appointments, in terms of like integration with existing healthcare provider records and systems, and how Microsoft will say their APIs, their collection of APIs makes it very easy to integrate with medical records, makes it very easy to leverage the kind of existing electronic health record solutions that they have at the moment. And then they've got a couple of examples of how these kind of virtual systems can help do things like reduce no-shows, and help people kind of move from in-person only to more online. So there's a couple of call outs to some sessions. So if you're attending HIMS, these are the sessions you probably want to go and attend. But also there's Microsoft's going to have a stand there. And so this is good. I mean, it's good as well to see, we've seen Microsoft be a little slow to coming back to conferencing, I would say. Certainly their first party conferences, the Builds, the Ignites, are not yet at the scale that they were. I think it's good to see them showing up at third party established conferences like HIMS. HIMS is an important conference in the healthcare world. And so I think it's good for Microsoft to be there. All of Microsoft competitors in this space are definitely going to be there. So I think it's important for Microsoft to show up there. And I'm glad that they are. All right, one more thing to tell you about. Talking of conferences, so next week, excitingly, is vNext. So been looking forward to this one for a really long time. I think I was last there in 2019, so I'm definitely overdue a return visit to the lovely city of Denver, Colorado, the lovely countryside, the mountains. It's really nice, actually. And we're in for a treat. 2 days of back-to-back sessions. Everything about Microsoft Teams, everything about Microsoft Comms technology. It's going to be very exciting. Lots and lots of great speakers are going to be there. The schedule is out, so you can go and see all the things you're going to enjoy if you're going, and all the stuff you're going to miss if you're not. So yes, this is happening next week. So the next weekly update I do will be from Denver. So that's good. Lots and lots of things. Too many to talk about in 10 minutes. So I won't bother. But there's just a phenomenal range of impressive speakers that are here. All the names that you know from this world. So it's going to be great. It's going to be lots of fun to catch up with people as well. and see what everyone is doing. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, it's going to be good. I think that's everything from me this week. This week is going to be busy, busy, busy. Lots to finish, lots to move forward on. I'm going to try and write up some blog posts. I feel like that stuff that I spent 10 minutes talking about at the start of this is kind of important. I do want to shout actually to Kevin McDonald. Hi, Kevin, who has pointed out another good conference that is sector aligned. So we were just talking about HIMS and the healthcare conferencing stuff. He would like to call out Hannover Messe, which is a manufacturing sort of focused conference, and that's interesting actually because I know HIMS in the healthcare world because in a former life, I've spent time working with these kind of healthcare-based solutions. I don't know very much about manufacturing, whereas Kevin does. So he's got a good post actually from Microsoft around some of the stuff they're doing in the manufacturing vertical. For that conference. I'll put that in the show notes as well, so you can kind of compare and contrast what's happening in healthcare versus what's happening in manufacturing. It is good actually to, like I say, it's like a different lens of looking at how Microsoft does things. Like you can look down the product lens, if you like, and see the innovations that are coming in the product and the features that are coming in the products. And that's great if you're into those products and use them every day and you understand the pain points. But sometimes you'll see features and you don't necessarily understand why that feature went in because it didn't necessarily have huge value to you. I think these kind of more sector-focused blog posts are useful because they're useful for two reasons. First of all, they help you understand why features are going into the product because you can see the value they're having to those different sectors. Because each sector, like specific blog post, will call out the features that are important for that sector. But also, it kind of does help you understand how Microsoft has to cater to lots of different audiences. There's lots of different sectors. I've talked about healthcare. Kevin's been talking about manufacturing. There's many others. Retail. There's education. I can't even think of the other ones. There's finance. There's lots of other sectors. Microsoft has a core competency of 7 or 8 verticals, I think, that they're like super interested in. But Microsoft products are used by everyone in the world. Probably, maybe, something like that. But you know what I mean? Like there's lots of different sectors. And so Microsoft has to please lots of different people. And so I think it can be useful to read those blog posts, get into the shoes of different sectors and understand their pain points and where they're coming from. Because that could, that might help you either in the work you do today or in the work you do tomorrow. Okay, let's stop talking. I was talking about how busy a week it is, so I should probably go and do that. Yes, I'm going to blog post up the billing stuff because it is pretty important. And if you've missed it, or if you do miss it, you are going to get a nasty shock on July the 1st. So I better write that up. And I should get ready for next week as well, really. All right, whatever it is you're doing next week or this week, next week, have a great week. Have a great one. And I will speak to you again next time.